This is part 2 of our review and preview. So we're just about to embark on your embedded literacy and numeracy project. There's 4 assessment tasks coming up, but before we get there, let's just go over some of the things that we've talked about in the past. So what have we got here? On the screen you can see our 6 steps representing the learning progressions, and task 3, which you would have completed previously, is about knowing the literacy and numeracy demands of your work, of your course that you teach, or the work that you do with your learners. So here I've mapped my imaginary course, or the course that I'm thinking about, at step 6. And if you teach trades, chances are your training is going to be around about step 5 or step 6, just due to the demanding vocabulary and well, chances are if you work in trades, the technical vocabulary and the kind of measuring and calculations that you have to do will mean that your course is probably step 5 or step 6. So this is just another way of showing how all the pieces fit together in this approach to embedding literacy and numeracy. So first of all, task 3, you have to know the literacy and numeracy demands of your training. The next thing, and this is your next assessment task, you have to know your learner. So this is task 4 in our system, and it's about diagnostic assessment, figuring out what your learners know, what their needs are, what the challenges are. Once you understand the gap between the demands of your training and the level of your learners, you can figure out what to do about it. Which brings us to what you'll be working on for task 5. So task 5 is really the know what to do stuff, and it's about planning and delivering your embedded learning. So you can see our learner here. He might be representative of a whole group of learners. We've assessed him, we've done some diagnostic assessments, and we've figured out he's about a step 2. And what we need to do now is plan and actually deliver some embedded literacy and numeracy training, and try and move him from step 2 a bit further down to hopefully step 5 or step 6, which is where he needs to be. There he goes. Alright, once we've moved our learner and a certain amount of time has elapsed, then we can assess him again and figure out whether our literacy and numeracy interventions have actually made any difference. And if we're using the TEC's literacy and numeracy assessment tool, we might actually need a decent chunk of time in there, 3 or 4 months at a minimum. If we are dealing with a much shorter time scale, we're probably using our own teacher-made micro or mini assessment, mini diagnostic tasks. So this is task 6. And the only thing that's left after that really is to look back across everything and evaluate how that whole process is going, or how that whole process has been. So that in a nutshell is one way of thinking about this literacy and numeracy approach, this approach to embedding. Okay, so just a quick review again. Integral to all of these processes is the TEC triangle of the 3 knowings. And this is the simplest way of thinking about how embedding literacy and numeracy works. Knowing the demands, knowing the learner, knowing what to do. Right, just one other way of thinking about how the various parts fit together, or how they work together. We call this joining the dots. So if you have a look up here, your literacy and numeracy mapping with the learning progressions and your diagnostic assessment results really should shape the development of individual or group learning plans, literacy and numeracy focused learning plans. And these in turn should drive your embedded literacy and numeracy learning outcomes. And we're going to talk about learning outcomes in a bit more detail soon. Once you have worked out what your learning outcomes are, these should shape the resources and activities that you create. So if you follow this sequence, it helps you resist the temptation just to dive straight into the resources and the activities, and that's really important. The difference here is it's like the difference between a shotgun and a sniper rifle. If you just start using any old resources and activities because you think they're a good idea, you might see some results, but it's a bit like a shotgun blast. If you go through this process of letting your mapping and your diagnostic processes inform what you're doing, then you're more likely to be shooting with a sniper rifle here and really getting some results. Anyway, all of this contributes to the improvements that you'll see when you assess your learners' progress a bit further down the track. One last thing here, there is a theoretical framework that underpins this whole approach, and we won't spend a huge amount of time talking about it here, very quick overview then. This framework looks across 4 different parts of your training context. So in the center, of course, is you, the tutor, and your learner. Outside that, in expanding circles, we've got your course, your program that the course might fit into if you're in a larger organization perhaps, and then the organization as a whole. And what we're driving at here is a whole of organizational approach to embedding literacy and numeracy. So at the level of the tutor, this is where the rubber meets the road for you. It's about building in the literacy and numeracy assessment that your learners need and that you need as well, and evaluation into every course. It's about changing your professional practice as a tutor or trainer. It's about planning the literacy and numeracy that you need to, the best fit for your course basically. It's about the diagnostic processes that you're creating. Yeah, that's it in a nutshell there. So that's probably the most important part of this framework. Moving on from there, it's about analyzing your course demands. It's about identifying outcomes. These could be literacy and numeracy outcomes as well as the content-based outcomes. So it's how those two things come together is how your embedding works really in a nutshell. Once you move up to the program level, it's about looking at staffing capabilities. It's about considering the impact of embedding on everything. And then right up at the big picture level of your organization, it's about having an action plan, a high-level strategy where literacy and numeracy is becoming more of your core business. So there you go. Just a bit of an overview of how the theoretical framework underpins this approach to embedding literacy and numeracy. Kia ora. Thanks very much for listening. So next time, on to task 4. Thanks very much. Bye.